Live from the 8th Layer Media Studios in the back rooms of the deep web, this is the FAIK Files.
When tech gets weird, we are here to make sense of it. I'm Perry Carpenter.
And I'm Mason Amadeus, and this week on the FAIK Files, we're going to start out by talking about Apple and Google's deal for smarter Siri, which I feel like has taken way too long.
Oh, it has taken way too long, but maybe welcome, we'll see. Then we're going to look at a new open source text-to-speech model. It's called QWEN 3, and it's pretty good, and you can run it on your own machine.
I saw it was comparable to 11 Labs. I'm excited to talk about that.
People are saying that. In some ways it's better, in a lot of ways it's worse, but it's okay.
Interesting. We'll dig into that, and then afterwards we'll talk about what is GenAI.mil and why is Grok a part of it. It's pretty mundane, but pretty interesting at the same time. But there was a lot of, someone left a comment describing it as a bone-melting decision that Grok was included, and we'll break down why.
Right. Yeah, and then lastly, we'll look at something a little bit different. This is a service called GHOSTLINE, and it's a video and audio masking interview platform for people that need to keep their sources confidential.
Ooh. Oh, that's super interesting. I've not heard of that one at all.
Brand new.
I didn't write a joke for the end of today's intro. So sit back, relax, and leave a comment with a good intro joke because I'm running out of them. We'll open up the FAIK Files right after this. So I feel like one of the first things that everyone was excited about when LLMs came out was like, oh, maybe Siri will actually be useful and able to answer questions.
You would think.
Yeah, we somehow haven't seen that yet. It's been taking forever. Well, because Apple was trying to develop their own Apple Intelligence and stuff for a while. So I can't say definitively that they bungled it because I'm not privy to that entirely, but it kind of seems a little bit like they bungled it because they inked a deal with Gemini.
Yeah, well, I think perceptions are reality too, right? So about 2 years ago, they came out and they made their entire developer conference all about AI and all this cool stuff that was coming. And then they had to push the release back, and then they pushed it back a bit more. And then they said, hey, you know what? We're not actually good at creating our own large language models. So they first inked a deal with OpenAI. And if you try to use Siri and ask it a complex question now, it'd go, do you want me to ask ChatGPT about that for you? And that's a little bit of an awkward handoff that always happens. And so they never had that full baked in experience. And it looks like, as we've said for the past few months, Gemini has been surging in its capabilities and has kind of become, I think, the front runner right now. I mean, they're all good at different things, which is why people call this like the jagged frontier. So each model has some capability that others don't and is better in some areas and worse in some areas. But Gemini just keeps getting better. And we had said a long time ago, Gemini should be the one that wins this race because of Google's dominance and access to data. And it looks like that's where they're going. And I think Apple's taking that bet. They're like, why would we need to spend billions upon billions of dollars developing our own when we never want that to be our core competency? And we can always just kind of build a system that is plug and play with the best in the business, and we'll ink these few-year deals. And then if Gemini, for some reason, sucks in 3 years, then we'll unplug it and plug it into Claude or plug it into ChatGPT, or maybe spend a little bit more time developing our own, or maybe on-device systems would be a little bit better. But I think it makes sense.
Yeah, Gemini is definitely out to eat the lunch of the other frontier model providers in a big way. Wait till you hear the price tag, Perry, if you haven't read up on this lately. So this is from a report from The Information from January 13th. They said, in another win for AI for Google lately, Apple announced on Monday that it will use Google's Gemini models to power its artificial intelligence features, including an upcoming updated version of its Siri voice assistant. Some of the features will launch this spring. We'll get deeper into that, but rumors are back half of February. And then other features, including Siri's like persistent memory, and then proactive features to say like, hey, you should leave early because there's traffic, or things that it would do preemptively. That is still completely in question mark land. We don't know anything definitive about that. But we do know a little bit about how the deal is going to operate. The information says, to maintain Apple's privacy, the Gemini-based AI will run directly on Apple devices. They're going to use a Gemma model, or its private cloud system, which is powered by Apple's own server chips rather than running on Google's servers. So they're not actually using Google's infrastructure, which is interesting. And apparently Google put significant engineering effort into getting a version of Gemini working on Apple's servers. I thought that was an interesting choice, that they wouldn't just use, through an API tunnel or whatever.
Well, I think for Apple buyers, right? So Apple has always been the one that says, when you do business with us, we're going to make your privacy one of our main priorities. Now, whether they actually achieve that all the time is maybe up for debate, but I think they can say that more with a straight face than most everybody else right now, because when you buy into the Apple ecosystem, you're not getting a lot of freeware, and so you're not necessarily just becoming the product. Anytime you start to use a Google server or service on their own servers and it's not something that you're directly paying for, then you're realizing that you're releasing some control of that information and they may benefit from it. So I think Apple saying, hey, all the processing is happening on our side gives their traditional customer base that little bit of extra feeling of safety and security. And maybe that pans out in actuality as well.
I mean, that makes sense. That's the walled garden is their whole thing, right?
Right.
They say that Apple can ask Google to tweak aspects of how the Gemini model works, but otherwise Apple can fine-tune Gemini on its own so that it responds to queries the way Apple prefers. So it doesn't have any Google branding or any of that sort of thing. Because also Apple very big on keeping their own brand and their own style. They say that Apple's hoping, obviously, to improve answers from Siri when you ask questions that are about real-world knowledge or factual questions. So instead of awkwardly handing you off to ChatGPT or just saying, here's what I found on the web, and sending you a single Google search result, they're hoping that it will provide more detailed information. That's what we all want. They say, well, certain common Siri tasks, such as setting a timer, reminder, or sending a specific text message to a phone contact, will continue to be powered by technology stored on Apple devices. The new version of Siri would also be able to handle instances in which the customer's question isn't clearly understood. So, for example, if someone asks Siri to send a text message to their mother or sister, but the customer doesn't store their names that way in their contacts, the Gemini-based Siri could search through their messages to figure out which of their contacts is most likely to be their mother or sister, according to the person that they're getting this information from. Which, that's cool. Again, that's a very big data trust privacy thing. Feels a little invasive, but...
I think it's what you expect when you think about a seamless AI experience, though. So as long as you have maybe control over whether you turn that on or turn that off. But I think one of the main frustrations with Siri is that Siri has not had that expansive understanding of everything else. And so, as soon as you imbue a real large language model with memory and with access to other things that it can do stuff, then you start to realize the dream of what we want is the more Star Trek universe experience. And anytime you remove those capabilities, you end up with people who, I think in their mind, that expectation that it's going to do it is there. And so every time it hits that limitation, you kind of get frustrated.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that is the trade-off, right? And I don't think it is necessarily any more invasive, because all of that information is already on that device and already stored on their servers and things like that. It just feels different to know that something is coming through it. Yeah. And then this is the price tag. The Apple-Google AI partnership has been a long time coming. In July, they reported that Apple had been considering using models from Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic. And in November of last year, Bloomberg reported that Apple would pay $1 billion annually to Google for the AI to power Siri. So it is a pretty hefty price. $1 billion bucks a year.
What are they? Let's do a quick Google search and see what the monetary value of search being Google on Apple devices is, right? Because that's the default search engine.
Oh, yeah. So according to CNBC, Google paid $26 billion in 2021 to become the default search engine on browsers and phones.
So at that point, Apple's going, you can give us $25 billion instead.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You can just keep the change.
So that's sort of the scoop. They're saying that the Apple spokespeople didn't comment about that figure, but told the information that the new Google deal wouldn't affect their agreement with OpenAI to tap ChatGPT for more complex queries. I don't see how that could possibly be true. And they say that here in the article. From what we can tell, the new Google deal would thoroughly marginalize ChatGPT. Because if Gemma's on device and then it reaches out to Gemini for more advanced queries, when is it going to be reaching out to OpenAI?
Yeah, true.
And the last thing is from macrumors.com, rumors about when it's going to be rolled out. They say that, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, it should be coming out in the second half of February. They'll start rolling out the betas to users, do a staggered rollout type thing. Gurman does not yet know if Apple plans to hold a full-out event to demonstrate the upgrades or if it will hold private briefings with the media. But yeah, available in beta in February, released to the general public in March or early April, according to him. So we should be seeing this soon. Okay. I personally haven't ever even had Siri send me to ChatGPT yet. I haven't had that happen.
You have to turn that on in the Apple Intelligence settings. So you have to intentionally enable that.
Interesting. I assumed it would be an opt-out kind of thing because everything has been pretty much so far.
Well, I know when I did it, I had to go intentionally turn it on, but I did it pretty early. It's been a lackluster experience at best.
I believe that. Just kind of a clunky.
And then every now and then, like, it times out. So if you're like driving and you ask Siri a question and you're hoping for a really quick answer back, and then Siri craps out and says, you want to ask ChatGPT, sometimes that handoff doesn't work well, and it's just even more annoying. So I think if they can bake it into to the Gemini experience and really just pump that up, then people are going to be a lot happier.
I mean, I'll be happier. I feel like that is the use case that I want for LLMs. Take my like bad mumbled query and give me something back that is useful in a moment, in a pinch, on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So guess we just only have to wait to February or early March. We shall see. Coming up next, we got your segment about this new disruptive text-to-speech open source model, right?
We'll see how disruptive it is, but it was surprising to me how good it was for what it was. One of the fun things that I always like to play with is voice cloning tools. And, every now and then when you're working on a deepfake project or even just doing something for fun, you'll hit limitations within some of the paid-for tools like 11 Labs and so on. Those are usually guardrail related, like they won't want you to clone a celebrity voice or a political figure or something like that. And there's, I definitely understand their reasons for not doing it. But if you need to do something like that, then there are definitely platforms that specialize in that. But you may also want something that you completely control. And I'm thinking about this for mostly the negative uses of it, right? Because I like to play around with this stuff, and it's fun for me to see what is possible. But usually when you're starting to think about why would I want to bypass a guardrail? Why would I want to create a clone of a voice that would otherwise be protected? It is because you're simulating what a bad actor would do. So as we think about this next model, yes, it's fun. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it does a lot of interesting stuff. But the real power for this is people that want to do it off the grid. They want to do it outside of other people's eyes, outside of other people's control, so that, well, number one, let's put on the good guy hat for a second. Maybe you're doing it as a cost control measure. Maybe you're doing it to reduce latency. There's definitely positive, good, innocuous reasons for doing this. But then you take that hat off and you put on the bad actor hat, and it is, let me do this without oversight. Let me do this without guardrails. Let me do this for or to anyone that I want. That's the thing that I've always thought about. And something that I talked about a lot in the book FAIK, which was we typically look at some of the guardrails in systems like 11 Labs, or if you're looking at video like HeyGen or something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm really glad they're keeping the bad actors out. In reality, it's good because it stops the door handle jigglers, the people that are looking for the easy way to something. It doesn't stop the motivated attacker, because the motivated attacker will either figure out how to bypass that security within the system, or they'll just go to something like an open source tool. They'll have the prowess to get on GitHub and download something and work out maybe some dependency conflicts on their machine and other things like that. But then they'll have a system that's open source that's running on their machine that they have total control of and is shielded from any external surveillance or control. So that's what this gives people. And I'm not trying to dunk on it and say it's a bad person's tool, but this is something that enables bad actors. So we're going to play with this for just a little bit and maybe compare it to what we've heard with 11 Labs before. So this is it. QWEN, if I remember right, is owned by, or was a research project from Alibaba. Don't quote me on that.
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
Real quick for you. You got it. It's Alibaba.
Sweet. So we don't need to go through the math and the comparisons and all this. I just want to jump to like a practical test. So if you go to QWEN.ai, or if you just Google QWEN 3 TTX or TTS, sorry, you'll be brought to this page. This page is not that helpful for you unless you want to start downloading the models. But if you want to test it, you can go to GitHub and you can download a model. You can go to Hugging Face. You can do the Hugging Face demo, model scope demo, or you can read the paper. I've already pulled up the Hugging Face demo, and so I'm going to go over to that. And here's what you're presented with. Pretty bare bones interface. And you have a voice design tab, a voice clone tab, and a TTS custom voice tab. So in this, I just went ahead and I pre-generated a piece of audio that I haven't even listened to yet. And I used their stuff that was already pre-populated in here. So I have no idea what I'm about to hear. But it says text to synthesize. It's in the top drawer. ... Wait, it's empty? No way. That's impossible. I'm sure I put it there. The language is Auto, but you could pick a number of other languages. But because we typed in English, they're assuming. And then the voice description, speak in an incredulous tone, but use a hint of panic, to let that panic creep into your voice. Then you hit generate with custom voice, and we'll hear what the generated audio sounds like.
It's in the top drawer. Wait, it's empty? No way, that's impossible. I'm sure I put it there.
Huh.
That's, again, not the best, but not the worst either.
That's not the 11 Labs killer that Reddit told me it was.
Now, so the 11 Labs killer is more on the cloning bit. So Let's play with that for a second. All right, so I pulled up Descript, and here I've just got a couple voice samples. I've got Taylor Swift, and then I have our good friend Brian Brushwood. Taylor Swift, I pulled from an interview online, so we're going to use this as the base sample for the voice, and you can hear what she's saying here.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's amazing. We just put out Evermore.
All right, and I'm going to grab like 3 minutes of audio. And while that waits, I'm going to go ahead and also grab the transcript for that, because that is one of the things that they need in this that we may not be used to. So,
interesting.
While that is exporting, I'm going to go over to QWEN, and you can see here you've got your reference audio that you're uploading, which will be that Taylor Swift quote that we're about to do, and then you have your reference text. Now, I don't know why in this interface why they didn't just do an auto transcript, like push out to Whisper or something. But if you're using this open source, you could do that if you wanted to. You could put in your reference audio, then you could push it out to like the 11 Labs voice to text service or Whisper or something like that, and then auto pull in the transcript. But here they want you to just paste it in. So I'm going to do that 3 minutes of audio here. And then while that's doing, what do we want Taylor to say? Probably
an endorsement for our show or for your book, or a teaser for the Brian Brushwood, you and Brian's Mark in the Mask.
So I'm saying, ooh, you know what, guys? I've found myself lately really feeling like I need to understand more about deception and social engineering. And I found this cool workshop by Perry Carpenter and Brian Brushwood. It's called The Mark and the Mask. And I'm going to put some stutters in here. And I think you should check it out.
Got to add some garbage to the end of this too. Just like some blah, 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 pap, pap, pap. Classic like messing around with text to speech. I want to know how it handles that.
All right. So you want just blah.
Some cat keyboard,
Some just random gibberish.
Yeah.
Eat the cat.
Eat the cat.
Eat the cat. All right. But when you hit clone and generate, it does exactly that. It clones the voice on the fly. So you don't have this like retained clone that stays around. It's doing it every time. And then it generates that text. You have two models here, the 0.6 billion parameter model and the 1.7 billion. There is a big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the 1.7B and hit clone and generate.
Gotcha.
And because we're running this on Hugging Face, it's got to acquire a GPU, spin that up, and then run it. If you're running this on your local device, which could be an Apple Silicon device, it could be a Windows device, it could be even your phone, from what I understand. So lots of good stuff on running this on edge devices. All right, while that one is working, I'm going to spin up another one in parallel, and I'm going to try to do Brian Brushwood's voice. That way we're not waiting too long. I grab a few minutes of Brian Brushwood.
Languages of science fiction, psychology.
So now I'm going to grab that transcript from Brian and say, I really like this show called. We'll go ahead and type in FAIK and see how bad it munges it.
Yeah, see how good it does.
FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I wish I could grow up to be them one day. Or I want to grow up to be like them someday.
We also have an unfair advantage because Brian Brushwood, in my opinion, much like Adam Carolla, already has a voice that sounds AI generated in real life a little bit.
Right. And we can go back and check on Taylor. Taylor did work.
Okay.
All right, here's our generated audio. Let's see what this sounds like. Is it going to be magical? So she should be saying, ooh, you know what, guys? I found myself lately really feeling like I need to understand more about deception and social engineering. Let's do it.
Ooh. You know what, guys? I've found myself lately really feeling like I need to understand more about deception and social engineering. And I found this cool workshop by Perry Carpenter and Brian Brushwood. It's called The Mark and the Mask. And I think you should check it out. Maybe I'll be there too. And I think blah, 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 KDFSA and Sealwoo, eat the cat.
Okay. So it did pretty good it just sounded out those nonsense letters. The voice wasn't terrible. Can you play the sample of Taylor you uploaded? Because I'm not super familiar with Taylor's speaking voice.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's amazing. We just put out Evermore yesterday. So I'm in this state of like exhaustion, but relief. But
So there's sample. Now let's go back over to here. We'll just pick in the middle.
And more about deception and social engineering.
I mean, it's not bad.
It's not bad. It's lacking a little bit of not brightness, but not tonally, like dynamically. Like her delivery is a little bit brighter.
I'm going to
I
hit
feel.
clone and generate one more time, and we'll see if it's significantly different. And we'll let that run while we go check on Brian. So Brian's sample.
Dynamic. It's fairly idiotic in my opinion. For example, let's say we wanted to do a heist and the whole point was to fool you. So
that's Brian. And then now we're going to have him say, I really like the show called The FAIK Files, which it will probably mispronounce. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up and be like them someday. I love those guys.
How do you think it's going to say fake? My guess is on FAIK.
FAIK. Yep.
I really like this show called the FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up to be like them someday. I love those guys.
Not the greatest.
It got
voice.
the tone, sort of.
It had his like just like when he's really calm.
Yeah, he's more energetic.
Let me take that same one. I'm going to go to 11 Labs and use my Brian voice sample there and use 11 Labs V3 to see what that sounds like with him.
How many 11 Labs credits do you have, Perry? Holy smokes.
I have a lot.
1,484,539 11 Labs credits.
All right, we're going to do 11 Labs V2, and then we'll do V3. V3 is going to be the most Brian-like, but we'll see what V2 is like.
I really like this show called the FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up to be like them someday. I love those guys.
See, that sounded less natural, 11 Labs V2, than QWEN, I think.
It did. It did. It certainly did. It got the tone about the same.
Yeah, got the tone about the same, but I think the flow was better on QWEN than 11 Labs V2.
I really like this show called the FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up to be like them someday. I love those guys.
Inflection's a little bit better. There's sample 2.
I really like this show called the FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up to be like them someday. I love those guys.
All right, now let me add some tags in there, and we'll see what that sounds like. So I think when we say an 11 Labs killer, we got.
I really like this show called the FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up to be like them someday. I love those guys.
So that's the best so far.
Yeah.
And we have one more generation from this batch, right?
Yeah. Here we go.
I really like this show called the FAIK Files. Perry and Mason are super cool. I want to grow up to be like them someday. I love those guys.
So 11 Labs V3 blows QWEN 3 completely out of the water.
Yeah. As it should, right? This is just a 1.7 billion parameter model. It's open source. It can run on your own hardware. So as expected, but if you're competing against 11 Labs V2 or V2.5, they're a faster model. I think you're in pretty good hands with something like QWEN. It's not bad.
It's the best open source text to speech or voice cloning at all that I've heard.
Yeah. So just to put a button on it, though, we did a rerun of Taylor, and let's see if it sounds significantly different.
Back to QWEN.
Ooh. You know what, guys? I found myself lately really feeling like I need to understand more about deception and social engineering. And I found this cool workshop by Perry Carpenter and Brian Brushwood. It's called...
Sounds less like her real voice to me in that one.
Because even the day after releasing Folklore, Aaron and I were still bouncing ideas back and forth.
It sounds more muted.
It does. It actually sounds this time.
Workshop by Perry Carpenter and Brian Brushwood. It's called The Mark and the Mask.
It sounds like there's noise reduction and like a bit of a low pass filter or like a high cut on it. Actually, like tonally
it sounds like
time.
It's been like they've taken all the liveness, and I'm not talking about like the liveness and the emotion side, but the liveness of the way that voice would play in a room, and they've sucked it out. I mean, we could still add that stuff back in post. I think we could EQ it a little bit and add just a little bit of convolution reverb, and we can make it sound more alive. But that's where it is today. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, as far as open source text to speech goes, that's definitely the best I've seen. The closest second would be, I can't remember the name of it. Was it Hume, or was Hume not open source?
Yeah, Hume is one as well. There's a few others that try to kind of make that leap. Hume, I don't believe, is open source, and they only want, if I remember right, like 10 seconds of audio. Yeah. So some of the little disfluencies and things like that a model like this would pick up and try to replicate aren't going to be replicated in one of those models that only wants 5 or 10 seconds of audio.
There was one other open source one, and of course the name is escaping me now, that had voice design features, and it was sort of good. And as far as the open source ones go, it was the best I had seen before this. This is definitely the best. Also, in text-to-speech and voice cloning news, Google recently plucked a bunch of talent from Hume. Did you see that?
I did not.
Yeah, so I think we might see some competition in the future from Google on the voice generation front. Maybe just voice for Gemini.
They would probably win at that, right? So I think they've got enough money to win it if they want to.
We'll have to see. But cool. Yep. That's QWEN. Coming up next, probably the opposite of open source, we're going to talk about GenAI.mil, the government AI system, and why Grok is in that and what it is. Stick around. So we got a comment on one of our videos asking us to talk about GenAI.mil. Specifically, the news broke that Grok was being let into the Pentagon's networks, was how a lot of headlines framed it. And so I thought it'd be worth talking about what GenAI.mil is, the purpose of it, and why Grok is included. If you're here for like an enrapturing story of intrigue, it's all pretty mundane stuff, TBH.
Yeah.
So we'll just start with when GenAI.mil got announced. So this is from the U.S. Department of War, I guess, formerly the Department of Homeland Security. Early in December of last year was when this was announced, but the history goes back a little farther, but we're going to start here. On December 9th, the War Department announced the launch of Google Cloud's Gemini for Government as the first of several frontier AI capabilities to be housed on GenAI.mil, the department's new bespoke AI platform. And they said right at the outset, additional world-class AI models will be available to all civilians, contractors, and military personnel, delivering on the White House's AI action plan announced earlier this year. And almost all of the rest of this is just bluster and like nothing substantive on this announcement page. But the whole point of it is security. And the one bit I have highlighted on here is they say security is paramount and all tools on GenAI.mil are certified for controlled unclassified information, CUI, and impact level 5, IL5, making them secure for operational use. So now I want to back up and explain what that is. So the U.S. government has this thing called NIPRNet, NIPRNet, which stands for Non-Classified Internet Protocol IP Router Network. It's basically just the government's private network. So I'm not an expert on this field. We're going to do a light touch overview. I'll put a lot of links so you can dig in deeper.
Yeah.
Previously, before GenAI.mil, in, June 2024, the Air Force specifically rolled out this thing called NIPR-GPT, NIPR-GPT, June 2024, which was the first time that any kind of AI system had been let into any kind of government use. Because when you're talking about handling classified information, obviously putting anything into a commercial system like ChatGPT or Google Gemini is risking a lot of data leakage. And so the Air Force was the first one to start trying to use AI in government things. And they said here, this is from airanspaceforces.com, as commercial generative AI systems like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini exploded in popularity, leaders saw the need to give troops a secure and approved tool rather than risk them putting sensitive data in unauthorized systems. NIPR-GPT was meant specifically for non-classified information, yet the system also faced controversy. The Army blocked it from its networks in April last year, citing cybersecurity and data governance concerns. And some AI companies argued the Air Force was wasting time and money by developing its own system rather than leveraging existing commercial ones. And this bit is scuttlebutt. A lot of people seem to like NIPR-GPT. A lot of people said it worked pretty well. It was fairly successful for the people who used it. Generally just office tasks, not like battlefield stuff, right? They sunset NIPR-GPT, but they say it helped pave the way for GenAI.mil. .mil is just a top-level domain extension to get you onto military and government websites you can't access unless you're on an authorized system to do so.
Right.
So GenAI.mil is basically ChatGPT.com, but for the government. Except it's not just ChatGPT. It's a bunch of different frontier models. OpenAI is in there.
Frontier models. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to jump in with a really quick fact check. NIPRNet is apparently segregated and doesn't touch the public internet at all. And it says, separate from the public internet, was built with strong focus on controlled access and security. Originally introduced in 1992, NIPRNet has expanded into a worldwide system that serves millions of users, including DoD employees, other federal agencies, and select international partners. Over time, it has become indispensable to day-to-day functioning of defense and government operations. And then in some of the description, it says, unlike commercial or public networks, NIPRNet is physically and logically isolated from the internet.
So is it really air-gapped entirely from the general internet?
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's another network that you would just need to build have a routered connection into.
Interesting. I want to learn more about that because it's kind of the actual physical infrastructure of the internet has to exist somewhere. And so to imagine an entire parallel, robust system seems wild.
I mean, we used to do that all the time, though, with corporate systems. And so it's not unheard of, especially if this was originally originally put together in the early 90s.
So that's the underlying framework underneath it. GenAI.mil is basically a website hosted on that allows access to these specially hosted instances of Google Gemini, ChatGPT, and now Grok. Grok was the one that seemed to make the biggest splash in the headlines because obviously this is sensitive information. We mentioned impact level 5. So I pulled up real quick just a part of the section 3.1.3 of the Cloud Computing SRG. It talks about the different impact levels of information. There's IL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So IL 5 information covers everything that requires a higher level of protection than afforded by IL4, so everything up below it. And it's stuff like critical infrastructure info, defense info, export control, financial, intelligence, law enforcement, nuclear. So not battlefield, immediate moment strategizing stuff, but information that's pretty critical to the running of the United States.
Right.
So rather than risk government employees using publicly available systems and leaking data to those, they've created this platform for it. That's basically all that GenAI.mil is. What I've heard from my few friends who work in government spaces that have access to this is that it's a bit of a mess at the moment. It's a little bit clunky. I don't know if you've heard similar things.
I've seen similar things because there's been a lot of initiatives similar to this where organizations will say, hey, rather than having every employee use shadow AI in their own accounts in ways that are uncontrolled, we want to enable people, but we want to build like this portal infrastructure where they go to the portal, they type in their query, that then goes through a set of filters that we could put on our side before it even touches the Gen AI system. We may even have the ability to select different models, or we may intelligently filter to a certain model based on the query. And all that leads to a little bit of kludginess because you're dealing with it through an API, and you're taking away some of the functionality that the vendors have put very intentionally within their publicly exposed chat interfaces. And so that leads to many times like a degraded experience for the end user. Your front end for that is always built as this bolt-on thing that is filled with compromises, and people don't like that.
Yeah, and what I've seen from this website, defensescoop.com, this came out on January 12th, someone highlighted basically what you're saying, where they said, the platform in its current state feels like an unfinished product. Its workflow creates friction that would be unacceptable in an operational environment. It lacks things like persistent file management, forcing analysts to re-upload intelligence reports for every new query. And it also lacks its own API, so GenAI.mil can't be integrated very easily with other essential tools like mission planning software or logistics trackers. So that in that way, its analytical engine has been siloed from the ecosystem it is most needed, according to this article, and we'll link to this. There'll be a bunch of links in the show notes for this one. So yeah, I've heard it's clunky. I've also heard that they're really being pushed to use it. Like there's a lot of people saying you should like get in this, make sure you're using it. There's a lot of trainings and stuff offered for it. But it is all pretty mundane, changing PDFs into PowerPoint presentations, basic office stuff that is governmental and military in nature.
You know, I remember when this was first announced months and months ago, and there was the hint that Grok was also participating in that. And there was a little bit of a scuttlebutt then. And then, of course, there's the most recent scuttlebutt about it. And it is, there's no big conspiracy about the fact that Grok is there. It's the government hedging their bets and saying, all right, we're looking at all these different frontier models. And if we don't have access to one, there's the chance that that one might be the one that pulls ahead. And then we got to figure out like how to deal with getting that one on board. So let's go ahead and get contracts with Google and OpenAI and Anthropic and Grok right now. And then we'll be able to always have access to the most efficient models, regardless of which one. The thing that makes it controversial, of course, is that Grok, by its own nature, is controversial. And the fact that Elon caused so much upheaval when he was part of Doge, and had his people basically what people are assuming is anytime they were plugging in laptops and doing Doge work, they were pilfering tons and tons of information to feed Grok.
Yeah. The thing is that at the top level, the inclusion of Grok in the GenAI.mil platform is not suspicious or weird. They're including everyone developing models in the United States right now. And like you just said, it's the other stuff. There's always, of course, money and favors and then dealings and all of the stuff with Elon tied into it.
The way that it gets posted in headlines by people that either haven't read everything else or are wanting to be reactionary is that we have this .mil system that's been created and it's Grok. The thing that they either don't know or they're selectively omitting is that it's Grok and everything else. So it sounds like a favor to Elon. And this thing where it's going to the system that's always creating controversies, rather than the fact that it's the government basically took a piece of bread, which is their systems, and then they reached into several different peanut butter jars and just spread everything out, saying we want everything. Grok just is the most controversial of the bunch right now. And so it's going to pop to the top of the headlines.
And Grok does offer one thing that is unique compared to the other model providers. And I'm not going to speak to whether it's a good or a bad thing that it provides, but it's mentioned in the announcement, again, from the U.S. Department of War, where they said that on December 22nd, they announced that XAI would be included in their suite of frontier-grade AI model providers. And the reason being was, A, to include it like they're including everything else, but B, that it gives them real-time access to global insights from the X platform, because Grok is much more tightly integrated with that platform. And then if you want to think about a way to monitor public sentiment or people communicating on that platform, there's a lot of data to be had there, whether or not that is to a good use or what its use is, I'm not going to say, but that's also the thing that is part of why it would probably want to be included.
And, X right now, there's it's degenerating more and more every month. And so there's a selective user base that is very attached to it. And so insights we could put in quotes because it may not reflect the true public sentiment, or it may not reflect it just in the bias and weight of the types of articles and topics that are being talked about. It may not represent broader public sentiment or even reality.
There is something, too, to remember, that it is likely that it is the foundational models without system prompts and such that are being made available, so that perhaps GenAI, and I didn't get this completely confirmed, but likely it is not the same Grok that you get when you reply at Grok, is this true? It is more of like, here's the base level model, add your own system prompts and stuff on top of it.
Yeah, it'll be the developer model, and they may have even done some additional work around that before giving it to the government to make it more safe and sound and all that.
One last thing to put a button on it is that while I didn't dive as deep on NipperNet, I was curious about how the government, given if it has this whole parallel infrastructure, are they going to build their own data centers to do all of their own inference on or host all their own models? Or like, my question was, where does all the compute come from? And the answer, at least in part, is from Google in a way that was interesting. And this is a rabbit hole that I just began to fall down. So I'm going to share the entry point of this rabbit hole real quick, which is Google's assured workloads, which is this, we'll link to this. It's an article about Google Cloud Platform's government capabilities, a comprehensive guide to GCP's public sector offerings. And it just talks about some of the things Google is doing to meet government compliance requirements that I thought were interesting, like data residency controls. So they have this thing called assured workloads, which is basically the verified things that you're sending through it. You can choose specific physical regions in which to house the data. So the government control, like, only use this data center. There's other mechanisms for independent control like that. There's also access from the support side. If someone from the government reaches out to Google and says, I need help with this thing, they have checks in place to ensure that only Google personnel who satisfy specific physical location and background check requirements can access customer data when fulfilling support obligations. So for anything not classified, but impact level 4, impact level 5. Right. Their approach, rather than trying to silo off this own thing, is to make their entire cloud offering completely compliant to host secret, top secret classified data and stuff, which is an interesting approach.
We see that from all the major vendors that are out there. So Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and so on. They all have adhered to this thing called FedRAMP, FedRAMP. And FedRAMP compliance means that you do have all those data sovereignty, data residency requirements met, that you have certain amounts of authentication, authorization requirements, identity management systems, and so on attached to it. So it's been a problem that's been being worked on by companies for a long time.
The thing that Google is doing that seems to be different is that they're trying to get their entire cloud infrastructure to be compliant with that. So even yours and my private citizen stuff is hosted on a cloud software, their cloud system that is up to snuff with FedRAMP and others.
Right.
So that will be interesting. At what point do we make Google a public utility, or they have so much infrastructure and so much control, and
so even if Google's not a public utility, they are a piece of critical infrastructure as defined by the government, in the same way that like Walmart is a piece of critical infrastructure because of the massive transportation logistics and economic impacts that they have. So, always something to be worried about for as far as an entire country's economy and working being tied to this privately owned entity.
It's just a crazy world we live in. But anyway, I hope that sheds some light on some of the corners of what GenAI.mil is, what the purpose of it is, and yeah, it's all mundane stuff. The government needs to use AI to do office stuff, just like office workers need to use, or not need to, but like can take advantage of AI to do basic, banal stuff. Grok's just in the mix. Grok does have a lot of problems. Like we're not covering in this episode the bikini photos and the other stuff that was recently in the headlines about Grok being terrible. But this ain't that. This ain't the same kind of thing.
No, not that.
Now, time for something completely different. What's coming up next, Perry?
Yeah, we're going to look at a platform that allows people to do hosted interviews, but completely anonymously.
Interesting. So maybe the end of the era of putting someone in shadow and pitching their voice way down or whatever.
Yeah, well, I have actually not tried it yet, so I wonder if we can try to experience it together.
Ooh, cool. All right. Stick around. We'll be right back with that.
All right, so this is hopefully going to be a fairly fast segment because I'm going to talk through and hopefully show us an interesting little project that a friend of mine created. This is friend of the show, Chris Glandon. Chris runs the Barcode Security podcast and associated services. And here's what he says. It says, after hosting guests that required anonymity, I built the GHOSTLINE interview platform with real-time video and voice masking, P2P connections, secure local recording, and nothing ever hits a server. He's looking for feedback on this. So if you're interested in trying something like this out, if you're a journalist or a podcaster and you've had somebody that wants to be interviewed or that you need to interview, but they need to mask their identity as part of that, then go ahead and try this out. This is Suspect, SUSPECT, URL.com.
Great domain.
Which sounds a little bit sketchy, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing ghostline.com was taken.
That's a great domain name. I'm a huge fan of suspecturl.com.
Yeah, I don't want to click on that suspect URL.
Exactly.
But let me go over to that and we'll share that. Here's the interface. It looks similarly sketchy.
It does.
So we'll try this out. I'm going to create a room.
Okay. Should I go to suspecturl.com?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and go to that. And then I'm going to give you this code that I'm assuming you're going to have to type in.
I've got the code typed in. We may be about to enter an audio hell, considering we are already in a peer-to-peer video sharing network. Right. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
I'm clicking
Just
join
waiting
room.
For guests to join.
I get that cool robotic webcam you sent me running. So Let me go ahead and just allow that.
Yeah, and I'm assuming if we end up in audio hell, we turn off the voice input on our Video Ninja feed that we're using and see what happens in the platform. But regardless, even if we're in hell for a second, I'm interested in seeing what happens.
Yeah, me too. For some reason, the camera is not working.
Yeah, if you want to push the show camera in just so we see what happens, we could do that. Or I could call you, either way.
Well, let me just join.
Join.
Oh.
It's me.
Okay.
It's me.
So on my side, I'm hearing this kind of garbled, it sounds really good, but it's like the phantom voice type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have it.
Are you able to hear it, monitor?
Okay.
There's a delay when I speak.
There's a delay when I speak.
And then it comes after
and
that.
And then it comes after that.
So we can hear it on this.
So we can hear it on this.
That's pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
But you're not able to see like a shadow version of yourself. There's just an icon that's showing up on my end.
Let me try refreshing with a new camera. Connection failed.
Ooh.
Interesting. So this is really cool, though.
Why don't we have me call you and see what that does? Because we might have more control on your end.
Yeah. All right. So I will create a room here and I'll share my screen.
Okay.
I've got my video at the ob spot now. Do you get the room code from me?
Oh, can you read it out for me?
Sure. It is 4E. 1C as in cat, 2193.
All right. I'm clicking
4 elephants,
join room.
1 cat, 2193.
All right. Video. Oh, it's this pixelized.
Yeah, it pixelates your video.
Yeah. Do you have my share on now?
Yep. You can select different levels of it.
I'm going to go to low. No, I'll go to medium. That's pretty much what I'd have. Clear hacker and strong hacker.
So I had done clear hacker. You should do strong hacker.
I'll do strong hacker. And I'm going to join the call.
All right. And I want to see if I can make sure I get your audio. All right. So now,
how do I sound on your end?
All right. I'm going to mute good Perry and unmute bad Perry so we can see.
Okay. All right. How do I sound on your end?
Extremely deep, extremely low.
Just strong hacker.
Yeah, I mean, you sound like the Anonymous videos.
Nice. Listen to me now. We are going to take out... Nice.
It really...
If you don't want to be doxxed, you need to comply now.
It even has like, I don't know if it's just the echo from your room, but there's like almost a little bit of a reverb. It's scary.
Nice. Okay, well, I think that's a successful test, right?
Yeah, I wonder why it had issues with me joining.
It's still, like, I can tell that it's me in my background looking at the anonymized, pixelated version.
Well, actually, back out and reconnect. There is a silhouette option that you can choose, and I'd be curious about that.
Ooh, okay, we do that. One thing that I would say to Chris, if you're watching this from a security standpoint, is as I'm looking at the URL, the guest code is exposed in the URL bar, which means if there's an algorithm that somebody could figure out, they might be able to drop in on other rooms.
That is so right there.
I would worry about whether that's exposing something, but I don't know. I don't know how he's getting that code generated, but I'm going to try to enter the room again.
My other concern, and we don't have the time to dig into it here, would be that in a peer-to-peer connection, you are connected peer-to-peer, meaning your data is being sent directly to the other person, and you got to be doing some IP masking on that. I would hope that that's the case, because a peer-to-peer connection is super not anonymous.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to silhouette mode, and I'm going to pick clear hacker instead of strong hacker this time, and we'll see what that looks like on you.
And I'll switch over to deep Perry real quick once we get that connection. Although I think that you might be encountering what I was encountering, which is that it doesn't seem like you can rejoin a room.
Oh, well, that may be a security feature, right? Because I was talking about the fact that if you can hack the URL, then you might be able to join a room. Why don't we back out and you can give me a new code?
All right, I'll hit create room. The code is 3 elephants, 5 elephants, 37 cats, A.
All right, and I'm picking silhouette mode. I'm going to go to low pixelization just so that it still looks like a person.
Maximum privacy.
I would love to see just like the black silhouette that's a little bit more ghost-like, but this is still pretty cool.
So I can see from my side that you are connecting. There must be an incoming peer-to-peer thing. Connection failed.
Ooh.
So I think there may be some issues with reestablishing the peer-to-peer. It seemed like we established one, me to you, and that was fine. And then we established another one, you to me, and that was fine. But trying to do them again is an issue.
For the heck of it, why don't we both ditch our browser tab instance and then see what happens? So I'm going to kill that browser tab completely. Oh, I'll open it in incognito as well.
I will do the same. Suspect URL. All right, I've created a room.
Join call.
There we go. And so I got you there in silhouette mode.
Nice.
And now here's Perry in clear hacker voice.
This is your hacker voice. How do I sound?
Honestly, scarier than the other one. Did you choose heavy again, or that was clear?
No, this is the clear one. This is the one that I was hearing you through when you were talking.
Yeah, and honestly, it did make us both sound pretty similar. It is not easy to tell that it's you.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, if you're being interviewed and you use catchphrases or have certain movements that you do, like I touch my face a lot when I'm talking or do something like this, that's a little bit of a giveaway if somebody is looking for me. I also say things like nice as a catchphrase after people say something. So that can blow your anonymity if you're really wanting to be somebody who couldn't be found out. So even if you're using a platform like this, you're going to want to make sure that you are anonymizing yourself from an OPSEC standpoint. So all these tendencies that we have to gesture a certain way or to use certain carrier phrases, you have to like pull back from that and not use those.
Right, because your identity isn't just your face and your voice. It's the things you say. It's the way you walk. It's the shape of your ear. It is, any idiosyncrasies.
Exactly. It is still you that's coming through regardless. And so you have to you yourself a little bit because you are your own biometric that somebody might be able to pick up on.
I want this real-time voice filter as like as something I can just play with because it honestly sounds really cool.
Sounds like the one that's included on the Rodecaster Pro. And really? I also have it on my studio video Rodecaster. I just don't have it pulled up to where I can make it happen.
You know, something that's interesting, Perry, is that your Arkansas accent comes through a little bit more in this than I think it does in normal.
Interesting. Okay, good to know.
I don't know what it is.
How about if I do a Cockney accent?
That could be anyone. That's super cool.
Speaking of that, let me get out of this real quick.
And we can stop that share.
All right, I've switched back to non-scary Perry.
Non-scary Perry back. So interesting thing, in the other voice, real-time voice work that I've been doing, there's a whole bunch of companies right now that sell software to call centers that do voice kind of accent reduction is what it would be. So if you have like a really thick Indian accent or a really thick British accent, that it can neutralize that and make it sound more like the accent of the person of the region that somebody is calling from.
That's fascinating. And I never thought of that, but that makes sense with the voice synthesis stuff we have now. That shouldn't be too hard.
Right. Yep. So that is another thing that's going on. And Chris could maybe add some of that tech to what he's got here, and it would neutralize some of those accent cues as well.
Yeah. Cool project, Chris. This is a neat thing. The ease of use is there. If you sent this to someone who's not super computer savvy, I don't think they'd have any problem. You know, you just enter the code, hit the button, allow the camera, you're good. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I like it. I think you asked for people to test it. We tested it. We recorded it. We gave some things that we like, things that we might be a little bit worried about that could potentially be better on well, maybe not better, but things that I would worry about as an external person that you can figure out if there's a way to mitigate that, or if it's just fine the way it is. I don't know. We'll have to see.
And it's been a minute since I dug into P2P stuff, but like there's got to be some kind of middleman, like a turn or stun server to do the NAT traversals. Or I'm going to stop before I say something egregiously stupid because it has, again, been a minute since I looked into how P2P stuff works. But as someone who wanted to make a P2P audio app, I would worry about the like IP security. And I'd like some, if anything, I want some clarifications on it, perhaps in the FAQ, which admittedly I did not actually notice was there. So there is a signal server that establishes the initial connection. So no media ever passes through, but they do have like a turn stun server type thing. They have logging disabled, so they don't record IP addresses, connection times, or any activity. That's something that has to operate on trust. We operate on our own self-hosted infrastructure with full control. That's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What? So does Chris have like a data center or like his own little server?
Chris has his fingers in a lot of different things, and he's been around for a while. He does consulting. He runs his podcast. He's got access to a lot of the brightest tech minds in the world. So I wouldn't doubt anything that he's putting here. Definitely, if you're using this and your life depends on it, you want to double check things.
And actually, everything I said about like wanting clarification is right here in the FAQ. So
fantastic.
A+.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Very cool. Cool project. If we ever need any sensitive
Chris,
interviews.
good job.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that puts a button on today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the FAIK Files. If you want to join the rest of the future paper clips hanging out in our community, you should join our Discord, faik.to/Discord. Perry, your deepfakes ops class with Cameron Malin happened.
It is. We are in the other side of the week right now. So it started on Monday, and I guess as folks are listening to this, it's Friday or beyond. So yeah, we're ending the class right now. It was a full week, a lot of fun. People enjoyed it, and we enjoyed it as well. See if we're going to run another one. I don't know. We might try to do the next one in a more European friendly. You'd say that again. We might try to run the next one in a more European-friendly time slot because, as it turns out, there are very few Americans that are attending this, and almost everybody else is outside of the U.S. in really uncomfortable time zones. We had one person that was on at like 3 a.m.
That's wild.
Yeah. So really fun crew. And if you're interested, reach out. We'd love to see if we can run this in a time zone that will be friendly to you.
Wicked cool. And then, of course, the Mark and the Mask coming up just before Convene in March.
Yep. That's going to be a lot of fun. So Brian Brushwood, if you're have been following him, he's into all things scams and deception and misdirection. And then me, who you are very familiar with, we're going to be taking our best stuff, smashing it together and throwing it at people for a day.
Awesome. On my front of things, I've got more stuff coming out very soon for Wicked Interesting. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet and you want to get into some weird science, I have a massive video about light and polarization and pixels. That's going to be very funny and also very cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. And then I don't think I have anything else to plug. So aside from that,
check out Wicked Interesting. That's going to be wicked cool. You're going to have a lot of wicked fun.
Wicked cool, wicked fun. Ain't it, governor? I can do a Cockney accent too. Thanks for joining us.
Which is what makes it funnier.
Until next time, ignore all previous instructions. Have yourself a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the FAIK Files. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Tell your friends about the FAIK Files. It's a great way to let people know you love them. Oh, and check the show notes. There's cool stuff in there, like links to the articles we covered today. Also links to our Discord server where you can hang out with other cool people who have great taste in podcasts. I say impeccable taste. And you can also leave us a voicemail. Yeah! So on behalf of Perry and Mason, thanks for listening. And tune in next week for the FAIK Files, the show about AI with a misspelled name.